I stood back, letting the shadows near the fitting rooms swallow me whole, the boutique's plush carpet muffling every step. From here, I could see everything without being seen. Emma was having her moment. The dress, a sweep of champagne silk that caught every glint of light, hugged her perfectly. The same dress I had worn to prom in my previous life. The life that ended the night disaster struck. She twirled in front of the gilded mirror, her smile as radiant as it was calculated. "Mum, take a picture, isn't this perfect?" Our mother beamed, her phone already in hand. "Oh, Emma, you look gorgeous, breathtaking." Oh, neither of them knew, not then, not now. They didn't know this wasn't the first time I'd seen Emma in this exact dress. They didn't know I remembered the sticky, sweet splash of fruit punch that bled into the fabric minutes before my prom began. Photos were supposed to be taken that night. Perfect, smiling, frozen in time photos. Instead, I remembered her feigned gasp, her syrupy voice. "Oops, clumsy me." They didn't know what came next either. How she later drifted out of the dance with Tyler, my date, leaving me to choke down confusion and heartbreak under the spinning disco lights. Emma had a gift, not a kind one. The kind that allowed her to take what was mine, my clothes, my nights, my people, until there was nothing left to take. But this time was different. Inside my purse, my fingers brushed against the sharp fold of a receipt. A different dress. Gold. Bought weeks ago from a quiet designer boutique far from this city. A dress Emma didn't know existed. She caught my gaze in the mirror, her smile faltering for a fraction of a second. "You're not upset, are you, sis? I found it first. We have similar tastes, I suppose." I stepped from the shadows, letting my expression settle into something neutral, unreadable. "Please take it. Honestly, Emma, it fits you perfectly." And it did. It was made for a girl who lived for the spotlight. Even if she had to steal it from someone else, I knew exactly how tonight would go. Just as I knew how prom night had gone. And this time I wouldn't be the one left in ruins. This time I was ready to go home. The familiar weight of the house fell around me. I skipped the living room, where Mum was probably still cooing over Emma's photos, and went straight upstairs. My bedroom felt like the only safe place, a sanctuary with secrets they couldn't touch. I took out the sleek black leather journal from under my mattress. It wasn't simply a diary, it was a record, a map of history. I was determined not to repeat. My fingertips traced the entries, words written in hurried, sometimes tear-stained ink, from the early days following my rebirth. Emma's betrayals, small and large, are detailed on page after page, as are the returned borrowed sweaters. Stained secrets were whispered to the wrong people. Lies were told to make her appear better. Then there was Mum. Her blatant favoritism causes a constant ache. Emma was the golden child, destined for greatness. While I was just there and Liam, my best friend, his betrayal cut almost as profoundly as Emma's. Choosing popularity and her side when it counted most, the memory still stings. A shiver ran down my spine as I read the entry about the end of my first life. On prom night, the roads were slick with rain. I had found Emma and Tyler. My Tyler was then pressed against a wall just outside the rented hall. Locked in a kiss that shattered my world, blinded by tears and rage. I'd run. I jumped into my car and ignored the calls and texts. The rain was a curtain and the road a blur. Then came screeching tires, a sickening crunch of metal, and complete darkness. Waking up here months ago with all of your memories intact was both a curse and a second chance dinner. Mom's voice echoed up the stairs, beckoning me from the darkness of the journal below. The atmosphere was thick. Emma was overjoyed with her acceptance letters, which were mainly to the private universities her mother had always wanted for her, and the campus is simply stunning. "Mum," Emma gushed as she pushed a glossy brochure across the table. "They offer the best business program." Mum beams. "I knew you could handle it, sweetie. You have so much potential." She looked at me. Her smile tightened slightly. "Have you heard back from State University yet?" "I received my acceptance last week, Mum," I said quietly, "and the scholarship offer came in yesterday." "Oh, well, that is practical," she murmured and turned back to Emma. "Emma has always had a spark. You are aware of your sister's apparent lack of motivation at times." My hand tightened under the table, but my face remained smooth. I slid my phone out and placed it on my lap, then pressed record. Her words were casually cruel. "We now have saved evidence, not for a big reveal just yet, just a reminder from school." The following day, the same play was performed on another stage. I noticed Tyler leaning against Emma's locker. His familiar, charming smile was focused solely on her. He had previously been my boyfriend at this point. Now he was just the popular guy I was supposed to have a crush on, and Emma was doing her magic. The old me would have felt jealous and perhaps even cried in the bathroom. The new me walked up to them. "Hey," I said, instilling confidence. I didn't fully feel, but I knew how to impersonate Tyler. Emma, I was thinking that next week's calculus test looks brutal. We could have a group study session. My place, maybe on Friday. Tyler seemed surprised, then pleased. Yeah, that sounds good. I could use the assistance. Emma narrowed her eyes slightly, probably wondering why I didn't appear hurt or jealous. Sure, she agreed, but her tone was wary. Perfect. Let them wonder. Let them think. I tried to get closer to Tyler. Allow the seeds of my plan to take root. Later, Liam caught up with me near my locker, his expression earnest. Hey, could I talk to you for a moment? Sure. Liam, what's up? He looked around, lowering his voice. Look, I understand it's none of my business, but be cautious with Emma around Tyler. I think she's really after him. He appeared genuinely concerned while playing the role of the loyal best friend, which he had previously abandoned. Instead of dissolving into gratitude or tears, as I might have done before, I gave him a casual smile. Thank you for the heads up, Liam. Thank you for looking out for me. Then shift gears smoothly. So, how are things going at college? Did you finish your application to Princeton? That is amazing. His face went pale for a split second, but I noticed it. Princeton. In our previous life, he had constantly boasted about his prestigious acceptance. I later discovered that he had faked parts of his application. He stammered. Cool. I continued to maintain a light and friendly tone. My uncle, David, works in admissions there. You know, it's a small world. Perhaps he'll read your application. Liam gulped hard. His eyes darted away. Oh wow. Yeah, it's a small world. He mumbled an excuse and hurried away. Allow him to sweat. Allow them to become less comfortable in the predictable world. They thought they had control. A few days later, I returned home to find my laptop missing from my desk. Panicked, cold, and familiar. Tried to grab me, but I pushed it away. I knew who owned it. I crept down the hall to Emma's room. The door was slightly ajar, allowing a peek inside. I saw her sitting at her desk, with my laptop open in front of her. She was scrolling through something intently. My heart pounded as I wrote my college essays, but not out of fear. This time it was a cold, calculated rhythm. I waited until she got up and went to the bathroom before sneaking into her room. My essay was open and minimized at the bottom of the screen. Her email address. Her drafts folder contained an email address to herself, with my essay attached. She hadn't even tried to be subtle. The old me would have barged in, yelling, crying, and demanding an explanation. The new me just sat down and plugged in a small USB drive. I now carry it everywhere and quickly installed a key logging program. It took less than 1 minute. Then I closed everything, cleared the recent history, and shut down the laptop. I placed it back on her desk exactly where she had left it. When she returned from the bathroom, humming, she didn't notice anything. That night, during dinner, I slipped out undetected. Mum dropped the bombshell I knew was coming. However, the timing was slightly different. This life, ladies, she began setting down her fork with unusual seriousness. Your father and I have been discussing finances in light of the current tuition costs. We can only send one of you to a private university next year. Emma gave me a look across the table. It was not subtle. It was a complete triumph. She thought she had it in her bag. Her grades were slightly higher this time around, partly due to borrowing my homework ideas. I suspected, and she had her mother's full support. I felt the familiar sting of being considered secondary disposable, but I didn't let it show. I muttered. Okay, fair enough. Thank you for letting us know, Mum. I picked up my salad, pretending disappointment. I then excused myself. I need something from my room in the kitchen, which is hidden from view. I retrieved a thick envelope from my backpack, which I had left near the door. Inside was an acceptance letter from a prestigious, highly competitive arts program on the West Coast, which I had never considered before, and this time, fueled by the knowledge of how things might turn out, I'd secretly worked on a portfolio for months, and the acceptance letter included a notification of a full merit-based scholarship covering tuition, room, and board, which Mum couldn't control or redirect. I tucked it back into my bag and returned to the table. My expression is carefully neutral. Over the next week, I remotely monitored the keylogger logs. Emma, as I suspected, tweaked a few sentences in my essay, changed the title, and submitted it as her own to her top private university. The same one. Mum was hoping that my blood would boil. But I didn't make a direct move against her. Instead, I scheduled a meeting with Mrs. Davison, the English teacher who best understood my writing style. Mrs. Davison, after we talked about my college plans, I began to act confused. I had a quick, weird question. I was browsing some online essay forums the other day, looking for inspiration, when I came across an essay that seemed very familiar, almost identical to the personal statement I workshopped in your class last month. Mrs. Davison frowned. Oh, that is concerning. Can you remember where you saw it? I did not save the link. Unfortunately, I lied smoothly. but it was submitted under another student's name. I thought it was strange. A coincidence. Her eyes may have sharpened, or not. Plagiarism is a serious issue, particularly in college applications. Thank you for bringing this to my attention discreetly. I knew Mrs. Davison was also on the school's scholarship committee and had relationships with admissions counselors at various universities. The seed was planted. The academic awards assembly arrived a week later. I sat calmly, watching Emma fidget in the row ahead of me. Her name was called for a few minor honors choir awards. The principal then took the podium to announce the major scholarships and the winner of this year's Principal's Award for Outstanding Academic Achievement, which includes a substantial scholarship. He let out a loud boom, pause for dramatic effect, then go to Amelia Chen, my name, not Emma's. A ripple of surprise went through the student section. I walked towards the stage, trying to appear humble and shocked. I scanned the faculty section. Mrs. Davison was leaning over and whispering something to Mr. Henderson, a counselor with ties to Emma's dream university's admissions office. He frowned, looking thoughtfully at Emma, who had become rigid in her seat. Tyler caught me later that day, after calculus class. Hey Amelia, that test is still looking bad. Are you free to study this weekend? Seriously, you're the only one who seems to understand this stuff. This was new in my previous life. He'd only had eyes for Emma at this point. Sure, Tyler. I smiled. Consider Saturday afternoon at the library during our study session while explaining derivatives. I steered the conversation carefully. It's funny, I'm used to tapping my pen. Emma is usually very good at math, but everyone has off days. Remember when you cheated on your history paper in sophomore year? Of course, I made it up, but it was based on a vague rumor about someone, so it sounded plausible. It's strange how people can appear one way. Do you know? Tyler looked up from his notes, a hint of uncertainty on his face, as if he were cheating. I'd never heard of that. Oh, perhaps it was kept quiet. I shrugged, dismissively. Anyway, return to implicit differentiation. He appeared thoughtful throughout the rest of the session. His usual laser focus on the equations, which occasionally drifts into doubt, could be a powerful thing. The predictable explosion occurred Monday after school. Emma cornered me near the bike racks, her face flushed with rage. What have you been telling others? Amelia, what lies are you telling about me? I did not raise my voice. I did not become defensive. I unlocked my phone, took a screenshot from the keylogger of my essay under her name in her university application portal, and held it up for her to see the lies. Emma, I asked softly, are we discussing this? Her face lost its color. Her eyes darted around, terrified. Someone might ask, how did you get that? She whispered, her voice trembling. Does it matter? I kept my tone even. I don't want to cause any trouble. Let's sit down with Mom and Dad and talk it out. Find out what happened. Her eyes widened with panic. No, please Amelia. She grabbed my arm. Okay, I will stay away from Tyler completely. Please don't tell Mom and Dad. I drew my arm away gently. I want us to get along. Emma, there's no drama. I gave her a small, tight smile. Let's forget about it. Okay, I walked away, leaving her standing there shaking. She looked completely perplexed, thrown off balance by my lack of hysteria. My quiet control round one complete. She was rattled, and I had leverage. She had no idea the relative peace would be gone so quickly. A few weeks later, I logged into my online banking to check the balance of the small college savings account that my parents had opened for me. Years ago, my breath caught. A sizable sum of money had gone missing after being transferred just 2 days before, into Emma's account. I felt a surge of old, helpless anger, but quickly suppressed it. Confronting Mum would result in denials, excuses, and possibly even accusations that I was selfish. Emma needed it more, she would probably say. Instead, I printed out the transaction records, not just the most recent one, but also smaller, questionable transfers from the previous few years. Money was transferred from my account to cover Emma's band trips and expensive art supplies. Even her car insurance increased after she caused a fender bender while armed with a folder full of evidence. I called my father. My parents divorced when I was 10, and my father had always been distant, loving, perhaps in his way, but preoccupied with his new life and job in the city. He usually only sent checks and called on birthdays. He was not involved in the day-to-day drama, and Mum preferred it that way. We met for coffee near his office. I arranged the printouts on the small table between us. Dad, I started trying to sound more hesitant than I felt. I noticed some money missing from my college account. When I looked closer, he scanned the papers, his brow furrowing deeper with each page, the distant, easygoing demeanor gone, replaced by a quiet fury I'd rarely seen. She transferred your money to Emma for this purpose. He pointed to the line item for Emma's auto insurance. I had no idea what to do because you hadn't asked or told me. I'm murmuring, looking down at my coffee cup. playing the role of the wronged, confused daughter. He was quiet for a long time. His jaw tightened. "This is the end of it," he said. Finally, his voice was firm. "We are going to the bank this afternoon. We'll create a new account in your name that is entirely separate. And I'll add something extra to make things right. Your mother went too far this time." He looked genuinely angry and protective, even though it was a side of him I hadn't seen much of. Perhaps this rebirth was more than just revenge. It was also about rebuilding bridges. I had no idea how to cross in my first life back home. Later that week, I had a new idea after realizing Emma might need to borrow my laptop again. Hers was notoriously slow, so I purposefully left a browser tab open. It displayed the website for the city's designer boutique, which featured their latest collection. The dress was front and center, the stunning gold one I'd already purchased and had hidden away as planned. When I returned to my room later, Emma had just closed my laptop. She smirked, dreaming about her big sister. She scoffed, gesturing at the computer, "That golden thing. Please, as if you could ever afford it, and even if you did, you'd have no idea how to wear it." I shrugged. "Isn't it pretty? Allow her to think. It was an impossible dream." The whisper began. Soon after, I noticed Liam and Emma huddled in the cafeteria, heads close, glancing my way. Occasionally, they fell silent. When I walked past their table, the old me would have been paranoid. Creeping into the new me was a detached curiosity. Later, I casually approached Liam, saying, "Hey, exciting news." I spoke brightly. My friend Chloe, who is into photography, was assigned to cover prom for the local newspaper. She'll be taking photos all night, focusing on candid moments and, fashion. Liam exchanged a quick, uneasy glance with Emma, who was standing nearby and pretending not to listen. "Okay, cool," Liam mumbled. "Good. Inform them that any accidents involving my potential dress may be caught on camera for the entire town to see." My caution was justified. A few days later, I used a voice recording app on my phone that I had left strategically near the living room, where Mum and Emma frequently had their hushed conversations. I caught gold with just a small spill. "Mum," Emma suggested cranberry juice. "It stains terribly, especially on light colors like gold. If she does get that ridiculous dress, we must be prepared." "Emma, take care," Mum warned, but her tone did not convey disapproval. "We don't want actual trouble. But it would be unfortunate if something went wrong with such an expensive purchase. She may learn a lesson in practicality." My hand didn't even tremble when I stopped recording. It's predictable, pathetic even. I immediately contacted the designer boutique. "Hello, this is Amelia Chen," I said calmly. "I need to change my pickup date for the order #742. Can I leave the dress with you until the morning of the prom, and can you store it in your secure safe?" "Yes, until then. Thank you very much." The week before prom approached like a ticking clock. Emma, unexpectedly helpful, offered to pick up my dry cleaning on her way home from school. "I know you're busy studying, Amelia," she said sweetly. "Isn't your prom dress supposed to be ready today?" "Oh, Emma, how thoughtful," I replied in her saccharine tone, but the gold dress was not present. I decided to have it cleaned closer to the date. The bag only contained some winter sweaters that I needed done. I handed her the claim ticket for the bag containing the same old, bulky sweaters. Her smile faltered briefly. Tyler discovered me studying in the library once more before she recovered. "So prom," he began, leaning against the bookshelf. "Who are you going with?" "I decided to go alone this year," I said, looking up from my book. He seemed genuinely surprised. "Really? Why?" "Just want to hang out with my friends, dance, have fun." I shrugged. No drama, though I did have a slight smile on my lips. "I'm looking forward to making an entrance." His eyes lingered on mine for a moment longer than necessary. "Yes, I believe you will." Emma watched us from behind a stack of periodicals, her face tight with jealousy. A friend texted me the night before prom. "Hey, I just heard Emma tell Sarah and Jess that the after party at the lake house is invite only and that she will not tell you about it. So they tried to exclude me again, just like the last time." Rather than feeling hurt or angry, I was amused. Did they believe that would stop me? I picked up the phone and called Emma, not to confront her or to plead with my friends. I called Mr. Henderson, the owner of the upscale lakeside venue, where the official, after-prom party is always held. Henderson was an old college buddy of my father's. "Hello, I'm Amelia Chen, Robert Chen's daughter." "Yes, I am doing well, thank you. Listen, I was hoping to plan a small surprise for my friends after prom tomorrow night. Can I reserve the small VIP section that overlooks the lake? Sort of a last-minute surprise party event." He chuckled at anything for Robert's daughter. "Consider it done, Amelia. There is no charge." "Perfect. Allow them to have their exclusive gathering. I'd be hosting my own much better one right next door." The stage had been set, and prom morning arrived bright and clear as Emma and her mother arranged appointments at the local salon. The same one where whispers and rumors fly like wildfire. I slipped out early from my destination, a high-end spa in Salon. In the neighboring, much wealthier town, no one knew my name or the small town where my family lived. Dramatic hours later, pampered and polished, I felt like a different person. Calm, centered, and ready. Mum called while I was getting my makeup done professionally. "Amelia, where are you? Emma is almost ready. We wanted to take some family photos before you both left." Her voice was strained with annoyance. "Sorry, mother," I said smoothly and was held up. "Do not worry about me. I have my ride. I will meet you at the venue right on time." I hung up before she could argue. Later, I peeked through my bedroom window. Emma left and I watched her go. She was dressed in champagne silk and looked exactly like the ghost from my past life. Mum and Dad, who had arrived for the obligatory pre-prom photos looking slightly uncomfortable as usual, fussed over her, adjusting her corsage and telling her she looked beautiful for the first time all day. A genuine smile appeared on my lips. Everything was falling into place just as I had hoped when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. A black sedan waiting at the end of the drive as planned. "Miss Chen, your grandmother, sends her regards." Miss Chen, not Amelia. It still felt surreal because the biggest secret, which I hadn't even written down in my journal, wasn't about a dress. It was about her. My maternal grandmother, the matriarch of a wealthy and influential family, had been estranged from my mother for many years. She has been married to her father, a man who is considered far below their social standing. Mum never spoke of her, pretending that side of the family did not exist. But after my rebirth, haunted by the past and uncertain about the future, I took a risk. I found an old address, wrote a simple, heartfelt letter, and attached a few recent school photos. I hadn't expected a response, but she replied cautiously at first. With growing warmth, we exchanged emails, then secret phone calls, and even a few discreet visits when I pretended to be on study weekends. She saw something in me. She had said something. Her daughter lacked resilience, intelligence, and a quiet dignity that reminded her oddly of herself. She had offered assistance, resources, and connections, only asking for confidentiality until I was ready. Now it was time. I took a deep breath and stepped outside my room. The dress felt like liquid gold against my skin as the late afternoon sun shone through the hallway window. It wasn't simply beautiful, it felt like armor and a statement. My father was waiting downstairs, looking slightly impatient, ready to drive me separately as we had planned a small act of defiance against Mom's insistence on a family arrival. When he saw me going down the stairs, his jaw dropped. He was speechless, simply staring. "Wow, Amelia." He finally managed to speak in a voice thick with surprise and something else. "Pride, you look amazing." The drive to the prom venue was quiet. Dad appeared to be lost in thought. As we approached, I noticed the black sedan parked discreetly down the street. As my father's car came to a stop, a man in a sharp suit stepped out. This was Marcus, my grandmother's principal assistant. "Everything is ready, Miss Chen," he muttered as he opened my door. "Security is clearing the path. The photographers are in position." Dad looked completely perplexed as security photographers. "Amelia, what's going on?" "Just a little surprised, Dad." I smiled. I took Marcus's offered hand as I stepped out of the car. The scene went precisely as planned. As security personnel subtly held back the throng of students crowding the entrance, flashes erupted. Not phone cameras, but professional DSLRs used by photographers I didn't recognize. A confused murmur spread throughout the crowd, indicating that they had been hired for this moment. Who was this? Why the special treatment? Then I stepped fully into the light that spilled from the venue entrance. Whispers turned into gasps as the gold dress seemed to ignite, shimmering and flowing, completely captivating. Phones were definitely out recording. The professional photographers moved with me, capturing every angle as Marcus led me to the doors, sparking an instant social media firestorm while the music seemed to stutter. Conversations died. Everyone turned to look, and there stood the ubiquitous punch bowl. The irony was not lost on me, Emma. Her champagne dress, which had seemed so lovely earlier, now appeared ordinary, mass-produced, and dull. She had frozen her hand halfway into a plastic cup. Her face was a mask of shock and disbelief. Tyler, dressed handsomely in his tux, began walking towards me with a hopeful expression on his face, but before he could reach me, a distinguished silver-haired man stepped smoothly into his path. The man extended his hand and inquired, "Miss Chen Amelia?" "Arthur Vance. I own the Vance Gallery downtown. Your grandmother shared your portfolio with me. Pretty impressive. We must discuss your work." He effectively blocked Tyler, engaging me in a conversation about art and future exhibitions, while completely ignoring the high school drama swirling around us. After a few minutes of politely excusing myself from Mr. Vance, I approached my sister. I smiled a genuine, uncomplicated smile at Emma. I spoke calmly and kindly. That dress looks stunning on you. I took a clean champagne flute from a nearby tray and offered her some champagne. She stared at me completely. Bewildered by my lack of gloating and unexpected kindness, she stood there completely perplexed. I moved through the room, greeting the few friends who had not succumbed to Emma's exclusionary tactics, laughing and chatting as if it were any other prom night. Liam appeared at my elbow, looking awkward and contrite. Amelia, hello, I just wanted to apologize for being distant lately. I was stupid. Thanks, Liam. I responded graciously, accepting his apology without dwelling on it. There is someone I would like you to meet. I gestured to a well-dressed man standing nearby, who was watching the scene with amusement. Hello, Liam, this is Julian Croft. Julian is my grandmother's godson. Julian Croft is an internationally renowned musician and producer, and Liam is a highly talented songwriter. However, few people here are likely to recognize him out of context. I smiled warmly at Liam, the songwriter. Excellent. Always looking for new talent. Could you send me some demos? My label could offer a development deal to the right young artist. Liam looked like he was about to faint. Mum rushed in, wearing her emergency chaperone badge, though I knew she was there to witness my alleged social humiliation. When she noticed me, her gaze scanned the room in search of me. Not crying in a corner, but chatting freely with Julian Croft and Liam in front of a growing crowd of impressed onlookers. Her jaw tightened, followed by the real showstopper. The doors opened again, and my grandmother entered elegantly and imposingly, exuding an aura of old money and absolute authority. She wore a simple yet exquisitely tailored Chanel suit that complemented her silver hair perfectly. Marcus coughed and followed her discreetly. The remaining chatter in the room had died completely. Everyone knew who she was, even if only through reputation. She ignored everyone else. Her eyes immediately focused on me. She walked straight towards me, a rare, slight smile on her lips. Amelia, my dear, she said, her voice audible in the sudden silence. She embraced me warmly. You look magnificent. Turning slightly to address the audience, mostly influential figures such as Mr. Vance and Julian Croft, who had gravitated towards us. She announced, this is my granddaughter, Amelia Chen, my hair, and the future president of Chen Industries. The students gasped. Emma appeared to be faint. Mum was horrified, but we were also thrilled. Grandmother's eyes twinkled as she looked at me, indicating that she was establishing a significant art scholarship foundation in Amelia's name to support talented young artists like Amelia. Mum recovered slightly and tried to push forward, putting on a shaky smile. Mother, what a surprise. We were discussing Amelia's accomplishments. Grandmother interrupted her with a look that could freeze fire. Yes, said coolly. Her gaze swept over Mum before dismissing her completely. It is encouraging when family members recognize actual value when they see it. She turned back to Mr. Vance Arthur. Amelia has already demonstrated impressive business acumen while working on some preliminary projects for the company. In recent months, I've developed a keen sense of strategy. Mum took a step back as if struck, her face pale. My grandmother had just publicly acknowledged me, elevated me, and subtly and devastatingly removed my mother from the narrative in one smooth, calculated stroke. The twist wasn't limited to the dress. It was my entire life rearranged, revealing the rest of the prom. The night passed in a blur of congratulations, curious glances, and whispered speculations. Emma then arranged an exclusive gathering at the lake house instead of the planned one. The real party shifted. Somehow, word spread that my grandmother and her friends were returning to our house for drinks. Suddenly, our modest suburban home was packed with art dealers, musicians, and business people. My grandmother's influential friends mingled awkwardly with my few devoted high school friends and a stunned father. Emma found me in the kitchen, where I was looking for some ice. Her makeup was smudged. Tears streamed down her cheeks. The champagne silk dress now appeared rumpled and sad. Amelia choked out, I'm so sorry for everything. For the dress, Tyler, and for everything, the essays, everything. I was extremely jealous. Please forgive me. Her apology seemed desperate, triggered, not by genuine remorse, perhaps, but by a sudden and drastic change in my fortunes. I felt tired as I looked at her, the sister who had made my previous life miserable. I hear you, Emma, I said quietly, before I could say anything else. Mum appeared at the doorway. Her face was arranged in a mask of maternal pride. Amelia, darling, rushed forward with arms outstretched for an embrace. My successful daughter. I've always known you had it deep down. I've always believed in you. Even when I pushed Emma, I wanted you to go your own way. I instinctively stepped back to avoid the hug. Her words rang hollow and false. This abrupt change of tune could not undo all those years of dismissal, comparison, and neglect. My response was simple, quiet, and firm. No, just no, I'm not angry or accusatory. Simply a statement of fact. I did not accept her rewrite of history. Her smile faltered, confusion and hurt flashing through her eyes before hardening into resentment. Liam then cornered me near the back door, holding a demo CD of Amelia's recording contract. Julian mentioned that it's an incredible opportunity, but I need to tell you something. I almost warned Emma about your dress, saying you might have something planned. I was jealous. Okay, of you. Tyler is looking at you. I apologize. I listened calmly, accepting the CD he offered. Thank you for being honest, Liam. I replied, my tone neutral. I appreciate your apology. I paused before adding, I'll be thinking carefully about the types of friendships I want to invest in as I move forward. His face fell. Understanding the implications, the door to easy forgiveness for our old dynamic was shut. Then came Tyler. He discovered me standing by the fireplace, observing the unfamiliar crowd in my living room. Amelia, he said quietly. Can we speak for real? I nodded. Look, he sighed and ran his hand through his hair. I messed up. I was very interested in you while hanging out with Emma. That was mostly a way to be near you and get your attention. Stupid. I understand. Can we start over? Go on an actual date. His confession, which would have thrilled the old me, now seemed irrelevant. He'd still taken the easier, more popular route. However, he had indirectly contributed to my pain. I gave him a polite smile. Thank you for telling the truth, Tyler. I appreciate your candor. I met his hopeful gaze directly, but that's not a good idea. Later, as the guest list thinned out, Mum made one final attempt. She approached me with an envelope. Amelia, she said, her voice thick with forced emotion. I went to the bank. I put everything back into your college fund. She pushed the envelope into my hands, paying interest on my savings. I want to be a family again. We could seek family counseling. This is something we can fix. Get closer again. I took the envelope and looked inside at the bank statement. The money was indeed present. Thank you, Mum. I replied, tucking it into my purse. I appreciate that you returned it. Then I added gently but firmly, but I've already made other arrangements. I will be moving out next month. Grandmother assisted me in finding a small apartment near her estate while I began my program. The final confrontation occurred as the grandmother was about to leave Emma. Her blotchy face made a final tearful plea. Please. Amelia, she begged and grabbed my hand. Please don't shut me out entirely. I know, I don't deserve it, but I've always been jealous. You were always good at everything without trying, and I felt insignificant next to you. Can't we start over? I looked at my sister, possibly for the first time without the filter of previous hurts. I recognized the insecurity beneath the entitlement, the fear beneath the bravado, and realized with sudden clarity that holding on to the anger was exhausting. I forgive you, Emma, I asked, and meant forgiveness for my peace, not for her absolution. But forgiveness does not imply forgetting. This does not mean that we return to the status quo. I gently pulled my hand away, and we can now be civil. We'll see each other during family vacations, but I need space. I need to create my own life free of all this toxicity. Mum gasped. Dad seemed torn. Emma just stared at the tears that were welling up. The shock in the room was palpable. They had not anticipated boundaries. They expected me to fold or explode. They were unsure how to deal with this quiet refusal, this calm drawing of lines. My grandmother appeared silently beside me, placing a supportive hand on my shoulder. Her presence served as a stabilizing factor. She has made her decision. Grandmother stated in a soft voice but with an unmistakable sense of finality. There was no room for argument. The refusal was complete. 2 years melted away like seams. I stood on the balcony of my grandmother's stunning villa, overlooking the Mediterranean Sea. It wasn't my permanent home, but rather a treasured escape. A place my grandmother insisted I visit whenever I needed peace. The air was warm and soft, carrying the scent of lemon groves from the terraced gardens below. A gentle breeze blew across the pages of the business proposal. I was reviewing the launch strategy for the Amelia Chen Arts Foundation. Grandmother had not only encouraged my artistic pursuits alongside my business training at the company, but she was also actively funding this passion project, allowing me to combine the two worlds I now inhabit. A letter arrived in the Morning Post, forwarded from my apartment near the company headquarters. The handwriting was familiar, but neater and more deliberate than I remembered. It came from Emma. Inside was a straightforward graduation announcement from the state university. She ended up attending after the disastrous consequences of her plagiarism being discovered by her first choice school, where she had majored in environmental science, and learned something truly hers. There was a short handwritten note attached. I finally found my path. Amelia, I hope you are happy. Maybe we'll see you at Dad's birthday. No apologies and no demands. This is just an update, a sign of genuine growth. Perhaps I tucked it away with a surprising sense of closure. She was no longer in my shadow because I wasn't casting one on her. Later, I called my father. Our relationship was tentative at first, but after the prom revelations, he respected my decisions and we found a new footing, connecting over shared interests and plans rather than past grievances. We finalized the plans for his upcoming visit. We plan to celebrate my 21st birthday together next month by exploring the coastal towns near the villa. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in fairy shades of orange and pink, I walked along the private beach beneath the villa. The sand was cool. Before speaking, the grandmother walked beside me in comfortable silence. Her voice is softer than usual. We need to talk about the timeline for transitioning the European operations completely under your management. She spoke with crisp professionalism, but her eyes held the kind of warmth that made the conversation feel safe. For a few minutes, we discussed business. The intricate dance of multimillion-dollar deals blending seamlessly with the rhythmic hush of the waves. Then she fell quiet, her gaze drifting toward the place where ocean and sky became one unbroken horizon. "Do you ever regret it, Amelia?" she asked softly. "The choices you made after prom night." I followed her eyes to that perfect line, letting my mind wander through the wreckage and rebuilding of my life. Anger, heartbreak, elaborate revenge plans, and then here now. Peace, purpose, unexpected joy. The gold dress, once a banner of defiance, now a symbol of transformation, was preserved carefully in my home. I had even painted it, immortalizing it against the light of a window so it looked almost ethereal, as if it belonged to another world. That painting would be the centerpiece of my first solo gallery opening next month. "I have no regrets, grandmother," I said, my voice steady. Sometimes, the most beautiful truths emerge only after everything else has burned away. My phone buzzed softly in my pocket. A confirmation of the gallery's opening details. I smiled. The past was a faded photograph, its sharp edges worn smooth by time. I didn't need revenge anymore. I had something far greater, a future that was entirely my own. As the last ribbon of sunlight sank beneath the sea, I closed my eyes and inhaled deeply. The air tasted of salt and possibility. For the first time in both my lives I was free.